On this edition of Native Report, we attend a summer youth program at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. We visit Leech Lake Tribal College and learn about the development of the campus. And we revisit the Cobell litigation.
By having all these lands held in trust for individual Indians.
We also learn something new about Indian country and hear from our elders on this Native Report.
Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee-Mdewakanton Sioux Community and the Blandin Foundation.
Welcome to Native Report. I'm Stacy Thunder. Strengthening Our Nations is a pre-college summer program offered at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire for 8th through 11th grade students interested in college. The program provides an engaging on-campus learning experience that may prove pivotal for these young people.
It is a warm July day as a group of middle and high school students make their way across the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire campus. It may be summer break, but for these young people, it is their opportunity to explore going to college.
Strengthening Our Nations is a residential program for those students that are going into 8th grade and stretches all the way to students going into 11th grade. And it primarily serves those students that are from underrepresented student populations as well as low income. And our program, Strengthen Our Nation, has been predominantly Native American students from Wisconsin. Right now we have about 19 students. Our pre-college program is important because there are a low number of Native American students entering college, of course, and also being retained. In UW campuses, there's low number of attendance of Native American students. And so we're trying to increase that population in the UW system. So we run these programs operated through the Department of Public Instruction. Students need to be exposed to these programs because there's so much information here on campuses. A lot of support that we provide students here, not only UW-Eau Claire, but any other campus, I would say, in Minnesota, Wisconsin, anywhere in the Midwest.
This program is one of 4 offered by the Office of Multicultural Affairs. Other programs include one focused on math and science, one that reinforces reading and writing, and one that touches on those core teachings plus leadership. Today, Hmong and Native students learn about chemistry.
We're doing a lot of, science stuff and teaching. It's kind of not a summer school, but it's kind of something to keep you up to speed. And it's for Native Americans who want to participate. And there's other tribes that come here. I'm bunking with somebody who's a Ho-Chunk. It's pretty cool. This is my 3rd camp this year, and this summer. I actually went home last Sunday, and I got 18 hours at home, repacked my underwear bag, and went here. So it's just trying to get out of my little shell. I already know my majors, and I know that I'm attending here because my brother attended here, and there's a lot of memories that were made here, so I want to do the same thing as him. I kind of want to do nanotechnology or biomedical engineering, but then another half of me wants to do ROTC program and go into law enforcement or serving this country and stuff. If you get a chance to come here, I would, in a heartbeat.
This pre-college program has taught me to just get a feel of what college is like, and I'm actually really considering UW-Eau Claire because how much it's helped, and they have a dance team, and they have my major and a minor I want to do. It's just the perfect campus, probably. This is one of my favorites, and I've looked at many schools. I would like to do a dance minor because I like dance so much, and I'd like to at least learn about it and do stuff more with it. I also want to do social work, and I understand that's a very hard job to consider, and I would mostly want social work in the Native American communities and give back to my community. I already give back to it a lot. I'm a part of the WIC, Waswaganing Youth Council in Lac du Flambeau. This is the best experience I've ever had.
Being a repeat participant in the program is common, and it's not unusual for former participants to mentor the younger students.
I came to these as a student from 7th grade to my junior year, and then this is my first time being a counselor here. It's a really good program for Native students to get involved in. It's really helpful. It really gives you a good atmosphere. It's really comfortable. It's really laid back, but then again, they still take you to the class sessions. Like right now we have them going to a writing class with Brandy, Lone Tree, White, and then we just have a meeting with career services and giving them, or planting those seeds in their heads and saying, hey, do you want to do this or do you want to do that? Well, if you want to do this, then these are the classes that you need to take, and you need to start, even though you're only in 7th grade, you need to start planning for high school. If you're in high school, you need to start planning for college. So it's really just planting those seeds in their heads and helping build up their confidence so that they know that they can go to college, so that it is an option. And then hopefully they come back next year and they keep bringing like their friends back and more people back.
I never really thought of college when I was sophomore and junior. It gave me a whole better perspective on what to do with life, and you only get one shot. Right now, being a counselor, I try to help all the kids with as much as I can of my knowledge. Just because they're a bunch of Anishinaabeg students, and I like to see them go farther and exceed their expectations. We need more of our educated Indian people and to serve in these professional positions that we have, that our tribes offer. We need doctors, we need lawyers, we need teachers, and so it's always been a passion of mine to try to open up those doors for Native students.
Did you know the tribal college movement grew out of the American Indian self-determination movement of the 1960s? The first tribally controlled college was established in 1968 by the Navajo Nation. Today, the nation's tribal colleges consist of more than 35 institutions, allowing access to higher education to over 80% of Indian country. Tribal college students are typically non-traditional students, with more than half over the age of 25. About 35% are single parents, 63% are female, and 60% attend college on a full-time basis. In 2014, Leech Lake Tribal College was ranked by collegeatlas.org as the 7th of America's 50 best community colleges. Because most tribal colleges are located on reservations, local property taxes cannot be levied for their support, and states have no obligation to fund them. Major funding sources for tribal colleges are primarily federal, including the Tribally Controlled College Act of 1978, which is administered by the U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs. Consequently, tribal colleges are chronically underfunded. The American Indian College Fund is a nonprofit which helps to fund tribal colleges.
Next, in 1990, the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe established the Leech Lake Tribal College. In subsequent years, the college has experienced a steady growth in the number of programs, staff, and students. LLTC offers a unique educational experience based on traditional cultural philosophy and values of the Anishinaabeg.
Every Monday around noon, the sounds of drumming and singing echo through the halls of Leech Lake Tribal College. A sense of community is evident as staff and students gather for a meal on this day.
Tribal colleges are really important to a community, and especially a tribal community.
for a number of different reasons. The first that we see a lot in a lot of the studies that we do or the surveys that we do with our students is a high majority, I would say in the 70 to 80% range, identify that they might eventually go to school, but that would have been a much bigger challenge to actually get to school. Another kind of alarming stat that pops out at us as well is that a lot of them say they would just not go to higher education at all. So the tribal colleges really provide an opportunity for people to come and pursue higher education. And also the mission of Leech Lake Tribal College is that we are grounded in our Anishinaabeg values. So all of our classes have some form of culture, some form of language intertwined into them. Our courses transfer to any four-year institution or other two-year institution. Recently, one of our staff members' son, who goes to the University of Iowa, took a summer class, and I called down there to let them know he would be taking it, and they just simply asked, "Are you accredited?" We answered yes, no problem whatsoever. So it allows us to kind of combine the best of both worlds.
Leech Lake Tribal College, founded in 1990, is made up of approximately 95% Native American students, drawing predominantly from the Leech Lake and Red Lake nations. The college plays an important role for both communities.
My experience here at the Leech Lake Tribal College is a life-altering one. I was raised in poverty and I worked, honestly, from the age of 12 until 18, and when I graduated high school, I didn't want to work anymore. And my grandmother was huge on education. She was a boarding school survivor, but she held education to the highest standards. She said, go to school, go to school. So being that there was a huge lack of cultural coursework and curriculum in the public school system in Bemidji there, I chose here because of the language. And I enrolled the Monday after I graduated, honestly. Came here and enrolled, and at the time it was just the one building. It was on the other side there, it was just that one building, and just kind of stumbled down a literal life-altering decision that I didn't realize would make such an impact on my life, and most importantly, the community. I always tell people when I chose to come to college here, it was for my community. Then it was for my family, then it was for my grandmother, and then it was for myself. And that's what the philosophy of tribal colleges is. It's a direct door and direct connection to the community that they're within.
Some of our students will simply get a certificate and go out into the workforce. Some of them will get an AA degree, and that's as far as they want to go. And there's nothing wrong with that. They've taken a step that they wouldn't have normally taken. We have that ability, and some students come here and tell us, I only wanted to do a one-year certification program, and I decided to stay for a two-year program. Or I switched from carpentry to business because I want to open up my own business. So it gives our students a lot of flexibility to do different things, and that's truly where I think we impact the community the most, is the fact that we're putting people on to higher education institutions after us, as well as feeding into the workforce too.
Fundraising is always a consideration at Leech Lake Tribal College, as they are not eligible for state bonding or federal grants. The future, however, does look bright.
As a land grant institute, we don't qualify for any kind of state monies whatsoever. So to raise money for a library project like we're in the midst of completing, we've had to 100% fundraise ourselves. What it involves is foundations, it involves other tribes, and it involves really a whole community kind of coming together to help fundraise. As a relatively new institution, we've been around for about 24 years now. We don't have an alumni base that you can tap into like a lot of schools that have been around for 100 or 150 years. With the tribal college, most of our students, I would say about 90%, actually stay in this area and become part of the workforce. So that education piece really helps us to say, by investing money into the tribal college, you're really investing money in our community. Our brand new library project is one that we're very proud of and very excited about as well. Our current library is 900 square feet, and our current learning center, which will be housed in the new library, is about 600 square feet, and they're housed in different buildings. So one of the problems we face with our students is that they have to go into two different buildings to get the information that they need to study. If a tutor tells them you should check out this book, this is really going to help you,
they then walk to a different wing of the campus. So by combining those together, we're really going to make it a lot easier for our students. With some of our students, any roadblock that comes up can be something that's really defeating. So by putting them together, we're hoping that it's going to be a lot better for students to study and to have a place. Anytime that you can put up a new building and increase your infrastructure needs, that's a huge thing as well. I can honestly say without a shadow of a doubt that when I go home at night, I don't have a problem answering, what did I do for my community? What did I do for Native peoples? We impact that every single day. And there are so many stories of students that just come up to us and tell us, hey, I never would have gone to school. I never even thought about school. And you know what? Now I'm getting a 2-year degree. I'm going on to a 4-year degree. I'm talking to my kids about college. And that's a great thing to see.
Being Native is a beautiful understanding of life, and to understand it, it's a huge gift. It's a huge gift. We just have to realize those things are right in front of us. They're right there in your life. You just have to see it. And I think part of our commitment to that is to show you how to get there, whether it's through sundancers, or sweat lodges, adoption ceremonies, the making of relatives. The more relatives you make, the better, because you get to share that same message with people, and your community gets huger. It gets huge. And so now you have 40, 50 people than just yourself, but they all understand the same thing. Native is a beautiful thing. You truly are connected to the Creator.
The Cobell lawsuit is this week's archive story. Originally broadcast in Season 3 of Native Report, the lawsuit involved billions of dollars that affected hundreds of thousands of individuals across Indian country. We now take a look at how it all started.
Obviously, the Cobell litigation is huge. Can you tell us how it got started?
Well, I hate to always start at the 19th century, but it happens that this issue happens to start in the 19th century, in 1887 in particular. Prior to that point, all Indian land was held in common, in reservations, where it was all owned by a tribe and communally. And then in 1887, there was a policy called allotment, and it basically divided up Indian reservations and gave the land to each individual Indian. And it happened all over Indian country. And the result of allotment was first the widespread alienation of Indian land. About 2/3 of our remaining land base was just extinguished and given to non-Indians. So that was one of the most important problematic aspects of allotment. The second is that it created this system where you had all this land that was owned by individual Indians but held in trust by the United States and managed by the United States. Now one might ask, why would the U.S. want to do that? Well, Indians had these resource-rich lands, and it became quite evident that they wanted to develop the resources on those lands. Not the Indians, but the government did. Oil and gas, timber, etc. And instead of having to get the Indians' consent, as one would normally have to do, if you appointed yourself trustee, then all of a sudden you could give the consent. And so they basically established themselves to be and to have the powers of a trustee, but they never wanted the concomitant responsibilities of a trustee. And so that's how it started. That was the inception in 1887, and allotment ended basically in 1934, but you still had the residual impact of that by having all these lands held in trust for individual Indians.
So what happened in 1934?
Well, in 1934, the Indian Reorganization Act largely ended allotment, but it didn't end the mismanagement. How do we know there was mismanagement that early? Well, there's a 1915 congressional report, and one of the quotes says, and it's just a devastating analysis of the Indian trust management system. It says, quote, "Fraud, corruption, and institutional incompetence almost beyond the possibility of comprehension," end quote. And that was 1915. So from the very earliest days, we saw the most widespread malfeasance one can imagine. And every decade since then, there's been reports and reports and reports from the government and non-government entities, all the way to present. One 1989 Senate investigation report calls it pervasive fraud in the Department of Interior. Another one talks about how the funds are used as slush funds. These are our monies, Indian monies, the only thing, the financial lifeblood of these communities, sucked out of them for generation after generation after generation.
So was the government acting like a bank all of those years?
Yeah, it's sort of like a weird role of bank, plus they consented to the leases, they did the appraisals, so it was a bank plus more. It included all these responsibilities, controlling the assets in Indian country, determining when you enter a lease, for how much you enter a lease, what the length of the lease is. Then they take the money and they're supposed to manage it, and they're supposed to collect it and invest it and disperse it to the owner of the land. And in each phase of that trust management process, they have wholesale abdication of their trust responsibilities. I mean, to just an absurd degree. Most people don't really understand exactly how bad the situation is. Right now, today, right now, 2006, still you have in this trust no accounts receivable system. So they're literally managing hundreds of millions of dollars in collections a year, but they have no system in place to tell them to go and collect if somebody doesn't pay. So it's a complete honor system. They also have self-reporting by oil and gas companies. An oil and gas company will go out, take oil from an Indian land, self-report how much they took and the nature of the crude. Then based on their self-reporting, they send a payment. If they don't report, they don't pay. If they underreport, they underpay. Now, you would say, well, does it get audited? Well, you're probably about 150 times more likely to get audited in your taxes than a single one of those transactions are audited. And even when they are audited, is there any penalty? No. They just pay what they should have paid initially. So that's why we have this utterly broken system, and that's what the Cobell case is about.
Who is Eloise Cobell, and why did she bring this lawsuit?
Well, let me put it this way. Any time you have a movement that seeks fundamental social change, you need somebody, an iconic figure, that is going to refuse to get to the back of the bus, so to speak. And that's Eloise Cobell for this issue. I mean, we have had 118 years of malfeasance, mismanagement, beyond the possibility of comprehension. And Eloise tried to work with the government, starting in the mid-'80s, along with many others, and time and again, promises after promises, no change. And finally, she came to us at the Native American Rights Fund when I was there initially and asked us to bring a lawsuit. And we did, along with Dennis Jingold and some other attorneys. And the charge was simple. This is a trust. Make them accountable for their trust responsibilities. And that's what the Cobell case has been about.
When was the case filed originally?
It was filed in June of 1996. So we are now over a decade into the litigation. There's been 80 published decisions, 3,500 documents filed, 9 appeals. I mean, it breaks records in most barometers.
How much money are we talking about here?
Well, what we're talking about is, well, let me put it this way. The government's own internal assessment in 2002 put their own liability at between 10 to 40 billion, that's with a B, billion dollars. We think that it could well exceed that, although it's not exactly clear how much we can prevail in litigation.
How many people are potentially impacted by the suit?
500,000 individual Indians, all across the West principally, but it goes all in the Midwest as well. There's in virtually every state where there's Indians, there's some allotments.
So where's the case today after 10 long years of litigation?
Well, as far as the litigation is concerned, we're continuing in the courts. We're pursuing the accounting claim. We are arguing that they cannot perform the accounting because of destruction of documents, and so the court should utilize alternative means to correct those account balances. And we are shooting for a trial date on the accounting either next year or the following year.
Is there some way out of this big mess without litigation?
We believe that there could be a congressional resolution, but you need to have a partner on the other side. The administration must be on board, because at the end of the day, the Cobell case means this, that those indignities that our grandparents and our parents suffered, those abuses, shall not exist to and be perils for our children and grandchildren. And in order to make that happen, we have to hold out for a resolution that is fair at the end of the day.
On December 8, 2009, the government announced having reached a settlement in the trust case. In 2010, Congress passed the Claims Resolution Act of 2010, which provided $3.4 billion for the settlement of the Cobell v. Salazar class action trust case.
For more information about Native Report or the stories we've covered, look for us at nativereport.org and Facebook. Thank you for spending time with us here on Native Report. I'm Stacy Thunder.
Stacy Thunder is Ojibwe from the Red Lake and Lakota Ray Nations and is the Legislative Counsel for the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. Professor Tad Johnson is the Director of the Master of Tribal Administration and Governance program at the University of Minnesota Duluth and is an enrolled member of the Boys Fort Band of Chippewa. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux Community and the Blandin Foundation.